People knew. And people in the streets knew. The New York Times was publishing this all the time. They knew. I don't think we could defend ourselves by saying we didn't have the information. We had the information. It just wasn't in our best interest to act upon it.
It is amazing that a whole nation can sit by and watch a mass killing go on. I always thought about it. How can a whole nation follow one person that wanted to kill so many people?
I believe that the Holocaust was not a unique event. I think to say that the Holocaust is unique, and I frown on scholars that say that the Holocaust was a unique event. I think to say it's unique is to say that it could never happen again.
People in the United States knew about what was going on during 1940, 1945. But is it possible for another Holocaust to happen again?
Genocide stems from thinking that my world would be better without you in it, without you and your kind. And I think that that is the key to genocide, is this idea of racism. It's easy to kill someone if you dehumanize them, if they're parasites, if they're vermin, as you saw in the Holocaust.
A man named Raphael Lemkin spent his whole life developing the word, and then in 1942 trying to get Americans to believe that there was a genocide going on in Europe. Ultimately, he came out of the war and impressed the United Nations with the fact that genocide is a term that people should be aware of. His idea of genocide was that it's an attempt to either kill, deal with whole collections of people because of who they are.
With the killing of 6 million Jews, which was, in those days there were 16 million and 6 died. So it was 40% of the Jews of the whole world. And about 85% of the Jews in Europe died because of were killed, were assassinated.
We sometimes use the term baby steps. You know, it may start with names, and then it goes on to accusations and charges, and maybe there are laws, and people get excluded. But at one step at a time, and before you know it, it's moved from here to there, and people haven't noticed it very carefully. They're just not paying attention. Because we knew what was happening fairly early. There was a Jewish man in Switzerland who used the State Department international lines to send a message. And the message essentially said, there are mass numbers of killings in Poland and Eastern Europe, and they're directed toward Jews, and they will continue.
They couldn't really figure out how to implement a large-scale rescue behind German lines while they're trying to fight this global war on both sides.
The reason why I study history is because war is the most complicated thing in the world. I want to understand how these things happen and why we go to war in the first place.
I not only believe the United States didn't do enough, but I think it had opportunities that it missed on. I'll give you a good example. 1940 to 41, there was a man named Jan Karski. He's a member of the Polish underground. He's in the Warsaw Ghetto. He sees what's happening. There are people dying, people who are leaving every day, people are being killed. He gets out of the ghetto, he gets to the United States, and he talks to the President of the United States, and he describes what he's seen. Now you have the information that's gone from its source to the man who could do the most about it. And Roosevelt turns his head and says, that's not the goal of this war.
General Eisenhower, this was before he was president, he was in charge, the American in charge of the European scenario. The first thing he said, take pictures, take films, because in 10 years or in a few years, people won't believe what we're seeing now.
From 1938 to 1944, the German Nazis escalated to alienate the race of European Jews. First, ordering them to register with police and wear yellow star badges to mark them as Jewish, forcing them to ghettos and labor, and finally putting them into death camps. 6 million Jewish people died by Nazi hand.
I think people put suffering into perspective. You know, is it my suffering? What does it mean? How do I define my? You know, when I look at one individual, I know that one individual. And if that one individual is suffering in some respect, I can sympathize with that one individual. But if I don't know people like that one individual, then I can say, I don't know who they are. They are not like me. You know, you're like me, but they are not like me. So I can separate the thems from the me's. And by separating the thems from the me's, it's a lot easier to say, I don't have to care about them. You know, the people I care about are the ones closest to me. My friends, my relatives, the people next door. They're in my universe. Other people, I don't know them. I may not only care about them, I may think that they're part of the problem. And if I do that, it's easy to say, well, just let them go.
I'm starting to realize that people were not and still are not paying attention. I'm starting to see similarities between Nazi treatment of the Jews and the way people today treat each other in the United States.
Perpetuating that memory, it's important. I also think the role that we do as far as educating both the public and teachers and students about the fact that never again has been in some ways an empty promise. That was a promise made after the Holocaust, never again should this happen again, but it is happening again. And I think one of the special roles that our museum does so wonderfully and is so useful is that what we try to teach people is that yes, it's still happening again, but what can you as an ordinary citizen, as an everyday individual do to make a difference, both in your local and global community, to make never again a mandate for today versus an empty and unfulfilled promise.
The dignity of the human being should be above all. And saving one life is like saving the whole world.